If you sell on Etsy long enough, you're going to come across more than a few shoppers that have some unrealistic expectations, especially when it comes to shipping. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's their first time shopping on Etsy and they don't really understand that it's an individual they're buying from and not like a warehouse with all these products in it. Although some Etsy shops do have warehouses. But if you're watching this video looking up tips for how to do Etsy, I'm willing to bet at least a nickel that you don't have a warehouse. Of course, giving them the benefit of the doubt is purely for my sanity, because the more likely scenario is they waited too long to try to find a gift and now it is my fault. And speaking of benefit of the doubt, Etsy has actually done something about this. A couple years ago, I believe in 2020, they started putting estimated arrival dates, like not just when the item would ship, but when the customer should expect it in the mail if they order it right now. And they have improved on this very recently. So if a customer is browsing on a computer, they will see this date before they even click on the listing. And if they're browsing on the Etsy mobile app, it will show right after you click, but directly under the photos and the title, it'll have the dates right there. The update to the mobile app must have been fairly new, because I have been browsing on and off over the past several weeks and it was not there like a week ago. And this should help reduce any issues with shipping times, because in my experience, those estimates are pretty accurate. And it actually uses the buyer's zip code as well as your zip code that you ship from to determine the dates. So if there is, like, say my zip code's post office is taking forever to get stuff out or backed up with deliveries or something, then it will adjust the times. It'll notice that shipments to and from this zip code are taking longer for some reason. And an interesting little side note, but they also do this for countries. So I was looking at some stuff from a shop in Ukraine and it was explicitly saying before I even checked out that it may take longer because of the, in Ukraine. Anyways, despite all of that, and it explicitly saying to expect your order between such and such dates, people will still either ignore it or think that it will somehow come earlier than those dates. So here's what I have done in the past. I don't think I'm going to do anything this year, actually, because I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue, and like 99.9999% of my customers have been absolutely amazing, like for several years now. Like when my shop was brand new, people were meaner, but now that my shop is bigger, people seem to be nicer. I don't know. But anyways, if you want to like ensure that you have as little as few, if you want to make sure that you have as few of these issues as possible, then here's things that you can do. So every year, USPS, UPS, FedEx, I'm sure all the other carriers around the world are going to set their dates for Christmas delivery. So they will say you need to ship by this date for this service or this date for this service. I believe they publish these usually around like late October, early November, and it will change from year to year based on what they think the volume is going to be and also what day of the week Christmas falls on. So this year I believe it's a Sunday, so there's like, it's later this year than it was last year, I'm pretty sure, because it's on a Sunday, so you have like the whole week, instead of if it's like on a Monday, then you have one less day because they don't deliver stuff on Sundays. But I do not, and you should not expect customers to just know this, even if it says underneath of the listing what day they should expect it. And you also cannot assume that they're going to read your shop announcement or see your social media, because you don't really see anybody's shop announcements anymore unless you're browsing on a computer, which most people are not. So you could move around your processing time. So here's exactly how I would do that if I was doing that this year. So the vast majority, I would say like 97% or so of my orders go USPS first class, which is the slowest option. So I will use whatever date that USPS sets for first class. So for this year in 2022, that date is December 17th, which is a Saturday. So it's the Saturday, 2 Saturdays prior to Christmas. While I technically can drop packages off on Saturday mornings, my post office closes at noon on Saturdays. I don't want to risk being late, especially because of the cutoff, and also because noon is pretty early for me. And I may or may not have all the things that the person ordered in stock, and I have to make them, and I just don't want to even go there. So my last trip to the post office with guaranteed Christmas delivery is going to be Friday the 16th, but I'm going to set my last day to order as the 15th, which is that Thursday, just so I have enough time to get everything out on Friday. Sometime between the 15th and 16th, like that night or in the morning, just whenever I get around to it, I will change my processing times so that it's not even a possibility that the products will arrive for Christmas. So you might have to play around with this a little bit. This may mean adding an additional 1 to 2 weeks onto your processing time just to make sure that nobody is under the impression that they're going to get their order on time. Even it might arrive on time. You can still do your normal 1 to 3 days or whatever you do. The downside of that is people who aren't necessarily in a rush or need it by Christmas may put off ordering because it looks like it's going to take a really long time. But I have a few more options if you're not really trying to increase it that much and potentially lose a couple sales. A lot of full-time sellers I know will absolutely be okay with losing sales around Christmas if it means less frustrated and angry customers. So if you don't want to change the processing time, you can just leave it. Like I said earlier, it should not be as big of an issue this year because of that update with the estimated shipping dates on the website. If your order volume is fairly low and it's not going to take you hours and hours to do this, the easiest thing would be to send a quick polite message to the customer letting them know that it may not arrive by Christmas. Just something like, "Hi, thank you for your order. I just wanted to reach out and let you know that I will ship your order as soon as possible, but it may not arrive on time by Christmas." And you can just leave it there. Like, I would not put anything like, "If you want to cancel, please let me know." Like, I wouldn't like suggest that option, but certainly if they do ask to cancel it because of that, then I would override my cancellation policy in this instance because of the situation. Though pretty much every time, I think every single time I have done this in the past, the buyer messages me back and says, "I really appreciate you letting me know, but I don't need it by Christmas. It's for a party in January," or whatever. So it's usually not that big of a deal, but they appreciate it anyways. Then what I did in 2020, which if 2020 holiday shipping was a nightmare. I went in and added a photo to all of my listings to the second photo slot that said, "This will not arrive by Christmas. If you're not in a rush, that's awesome. Please use code NORUSH for a discount." I used Canva to make that photo, made it like Christmas themed so it would catch their attention, and used the website called Vela to bulk add that to all my listings at once instead of clicking and going through each listing. Just remember to go back and delete that photo after Christmas. Also this year, Etsy is sending out a digital card. I have heard of this, but I have not seen it in action. They're basically sending out a card to people who order. I don't know if you have to mark it as a gift. Not sure on that one. But basically it's a card that says your gift is on the way or something, and the customer can print it or email it to their gift recipient if it ends up being late. And a lot of sellers were making these on their own or like kind of passing them around to each other in like 2020 when this shipping nonsense started. You can still make your own to send out like with your branding and stuff. But the main thing, if any issues come up, is just to be kind and understanding. The last thing you want to do is to end up arguing with a buyer that waited too long to order, because they know that they waited too long to order even though they may not admit it, and they very well have a lot of personal stuff going on. So just try your best to help them out, and they could end up being a repeat buyer, or they could leave you a negative review if you don't help them. I'm not saying bend over backwards or anything, just do what you would want a business to do if the situation was reversed. That's all for me today. Let me know if you have any other tips or things that you've done in the past that have helped, and I'll see you in the next video and in the comments. Goodbye.